And Gary, if you're ready, I'm gonna disable the waiting room.
Sure. Yeah, we'll start in about a minute.
Okay.
All right, folks, we're going to get started in maybe 30 seconds or so. Make sure everyone's allowed to join. All right, folks, this is another edition of Coffee Chats with Economic Alliance Snohomish County. I am excited for another installation of this. I'm your host, Gary Clark, President and CEO of Economic Alliance Snohomish County. And today's coffee chat is on cybersecurity. And so we have an opportunity to talk with some amazing experts in this space today to talk about cybersecurity protocol for your business to protect sensitive information. We'd also like to look at the cybersecurity standards soon to be imposed on defense contractors and other compliance requirements likely to be introduced for any federal civilian contractors that handle government's sensitive data. So again, this is a great opportunity for us to engage with our amazing panelists today. And today we have David Walz, who is Deputy Small Business Program Representative for the Naval Undersea Warfare Center Division. David, welcome. All right. And we also have Account Executive with Impact Washington, Nick Wilkes. How you doing, Nick?
Really good. Thanks for having me.
And last but not least, we have Tenured Faculty Information Technology from Everett Community College, Dennis Skarr. Dennis, welcome.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, folks, we are excited for some great cybersecurity information. So get yourselves excited, grab that cup of coffee, and let's dive in a little bit. David, you're going to have the first opportunity to engage our audience today. But before you do so, I want to remind everyone who is on screen with us to go ahead and put their name and organization into the chat. And then also make sure you mute yourselves as we go into this opportunity. And I will give it to David. Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me and allowing me to speak, and all the kind words and making me sound really important. So I appreciate that. Yeah, my name's David Walz. I am the Deputy for Small Business here at the Naval Undersea Warfare Center, Division Keyport. We're located just west of Seattle across the Puget Sound and on the Kitsap Peninsula, about 10 miles north of Bremerton. And Keyport is one of 10 warfare centers within the NAVC community, and only one of 2 undersea warfare centers. The other undersea warfare center is in Newport, Rhode Island. But each warfare center, we focus on developing a unique set of technical capabilities, but we also collaborate on those technical and science challenges that span multiple areas. And the warfare centers, we are premier centers for research and development and that technology that goes out for the Navy. So here at Keyport, our core equities are weapons research and development, production and sustainment, unmanned undersea weapons, undersea warfare test and evaluation, and theater undersea warfare and obsolescence management. We do have 2 of the torpedo maintenance facilities, both lightweight and heavyweight torpedo maintenance facilities right here at Keyport. We also have the in-service engineering department, which we maintain and develop those weapon systems that are, on submarines and also surface ships as well. We also have the Navy's first unmanned underwater vehicle squadron, UUV-RON-1, here at Keyport. So Keyport's been around for about 100 years. And in that 100 years, that's what we've been doing, is just developing those weapon systems that are undersea. So we do have 3 test and evaluation areas around the Puget Sound area. We have one right outside in the waters in the Puget Sound outside of our, parameters at Keyport. Also, we share a range, a test and evaluation range up in Canada, as well as a range that's out in the waters of the Pacific Ocean outside of the state of Washington, where we do the test and evaluation of these new technology that's going into these weapon systems. So how does that CMMC play in all of this? Well, a lot of the contract opportunities that are going to be made available for companies such as yourself would include a lot of those drawings that are going to help us maintain or upgrade the technology of these weapon systems. So in order to get those control documents, those drawings to help us with that, you do need to have some cybersecurity practices in place.
It's very, very early. They want time with these individual candidates.
Hold on 1 second.
Sounds like there's
David.
some
Margaret, can we get you to mute
New
yourself?
Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu says he will not run for president. How surprising is that? Well, I think one thing that Governor Sununu is looking at is just how
it looks like, Margaret, your microphone is on. If you could go ahead and
candidates in this race.
Mute yourself. But anyway, with Keyport, with cybersecurity, we do take it serious. With some of those solicitations that we put out there, we have that NIST requirement in order to get that, to be able to get those drawings so you can help us with our work. So with that, I know we're going to be talking about NIST and CMMC throughout this presentation. So I'll be touching on these touch points a little bit more. So with that, again, Dave Walz, new at Keyport. Our focus is all things underwater. So I look forward to chatting with you later on. So that's it for now.
All right. Thank you, David. Go ahead, Nick.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Nick Wilkes with Impact Washington. We're part of the NIST MEP. You might recognize those first 4 letters. They're in the NIST 800-171 code. But we're a program that's a Department of Commerce sponsored, designed to help small and medium-sized manufacturers more competitive. What does small and medium mean? We typically top out around 500 is our sweet spot, but we really work with any manufacturer in Washington State. And so you can look at us almost like an economic development driven organization. We want to help businesses increase sales, increase jobs, retain sales, retain jobs, help them take cost out, and help them invest in their business. But we do that through boots on the ground, implementations, trainings, and consulting with manufacturers. We kind of have 3 focus areas: operational excellence, workforce solutions, and innovation and technology. A lot of times we get involved with the cybersecurity standards when we're working with a small or medium-sized manufacturer that has a defense contract. They thought they wanted to diversify into defense or aerospace, and now the contract came across and they're like, hey, tell me more about this NIST thing. So a lot of times we come in, help them do a gap assessment, understand their current cybersecurity standards, where they're at, get a SPURS score submitted, and then get the POAM and milestones and everything built out to get them to green for their cyber journey. An interesting topic that comes up a lot is what's the best model for a small or medium-sized business for cyber? And we had a cool opportunity during the CARES era, I'll call it that, CARES funding era, to test out some pilot programs for cybersecurity. What is the best model to help businesses affordably become NIST 800-171 compliant. And we had some interesting learnings there. I'm happy to talk with anyone on the side about. Other than that, I will say that I'm in Spokane. We're going to have a new account executive very soon representing the Snohomish area. And I'm excited for her to get out and meet with all the business owners and see how we can help you.
All right. Thank you very much, Nick. I appreciate that.
Yep.
And last but not least, Dennis.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Dennis Skarr. I'm currently tenured faculty at Everett Community College. And my background actually began in the Navy doing electronic warfare. And then I positioned myself into the Air National Guard, performing cyber operations on critical infrastructure for about 12 years, where my team created, instructed training on industrial control system security and how to do assessments in that area. And I'm kind of weaving that experience into the work that I'm doing now at Everett Community College. And Everett Community College educates more than 15,000 students each year at several locations in Snohomish County. Most students and faculty are at the main campus in North Everett. The college also serves for a bunch of different education options for all of our students. Students come to EvCC to affordably start their four-year degree pathways, earn certificates, train for a new job, experience hands-on training in professional and technical programs, learn English, basic skills, finish high school, train for promotion, or we have our hobbyists and tinkerers that just love learning. Our IT program specifically prepares students for careers into technical support, system and network administration. And currently our students have 3 transfer opportunities into Bellevue, Whatcom, and Central Washington University to pursue degrees such as cloud computing and cybersecurity. So recently, EvCC was awarded a Washington State grant for $1.3 million to create a world-class industrial cybersecurity training range. So this equipment is actually real controllers that you would actually see in advanced manufacturing, energy systems, wastewater systems. And we have a 15-foot wall with a range of different products on there where students perform exercises defending them, attacking them, and learning the different nuances that make them unique and what also makes them similar to IT systems. And with that training, I think most importantly, we're really working hard in the state of Washington to actually create apprenticeship pathways into industrial cybersecurity. We're currently the academic partner with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 77, Energy Sec, and the Machinist Institute to create apprenticeships into industrial cybersecurity systems related to their different professions. And I do see Kat Santana in here this morning, who's part of our team doing extraordinarily great work in that space. So good morning, Kat, and I hope you got your coffee ready. Thank you for having me.
Hello, folks. Thank you, Dennis, again for doing that. I think we're excited to hear some questions answered by our panelists. So let's see if we can go ahead and make sure that everyone is spotlighted, and then we'll dive into a deeper dive of conversation. First and foremost, and we can go from, let's see, we'll start off, David, with you being engaged if you'd like, or Nick or Dennis, will go in that order. But the first question that I have, and folks on here, you are welcome to add your questions in the chat. A study released by Essential revealed that nearly 43% of cyber attacks are targeted at small and medium-sized businesses, with only 14% those targeted businesses having cybersecurity in place. Why do you think so few businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses have cybersecurity plans in place? And why should they take this more seriously? Anyone want to dive in first?
Yeah, I just think they need to take it more seriously. Well, there's a couple questions here. So one, why do they not have, why are there so few? And I think the big thing, one is just knowing. Two is also the expense of getting these cybersecurity plans in place. And they going back to where I said knowing, like, who can they turn to get some help? I mean, of course, here on the DoD side, we could point them to the right people. You know, I always point people to the MEPs, the manufacturing extension partnership, Impact Washington being the one here in the state of Washington. But they can help support small companies get to where they need to be ready for the NIST 800, as well as the future requirements of CMMC. Also, the Apex accelerators, or PTACs, they have resources available to them that they can help these small businesses and medium-sized businesses get to where they need to be. And then the other part of that question, let's see, why should they take it more seriously, is it's just really the threats that are going on around the world right now. And with the DoD and just the federal government needing to protect this information from leaking or going into the wrong hands. So that's my answer. I'm sure the other panelists have more to say on that.
Thank you, David. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll take a stab, as this is kind of our field of play here with small and medium-sized businesses. So first, why so few? Small business, medium business owners wear a lot of hats. I'm going to talk in the frame of manufacturers here, but it's a fast-paced environment. You got parts to get out the door. There's already a lot of certifications they have to meet, like ISO 9001, AS 9100, and a lot of the organizations are just full to the brim and drowning and trying to get parts out the door. And so one more requirement just feels like it's the straw that broke the camel's back, frankly. And it can be an overwhelming task at first to really understand. But why they should take it more seriously is those small and medium-sized businesses that do have CUI are actually the perfect target, because the bad people trying to get that info knows that they're not going to have the things in place they need to protect the information. Over here on the east side, I know of 2 manufacturers, obviously not going to name names, that were in the 50 to 200 people range, enough to have some capital to invest in cyber, but it kind of put it off and ended up with full-on ransomware P&L hits, if you will. So the threat is real and they're the perfect target.
Wow. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
Dennis, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the challenges that small businesses have is just really kind of like that misconception of what are the real world threats to their environment and what is their risk. I hear a lot, like, I don't have anything of value. My cyber assets don't have value. Ransomware kind of changed that game a little bit to some extent. But still, I think a lot of small businesses just think that they're kind of flying under the radar. And when they watch the evening news, they just think it's the big businesses. They don't have enough money or revenue to actually be part of a ransom. There's nothing that's actually there. And I think for them to actually implement some sort of cybersecurity plan is just not, one of their priorities, as kind of Nick mentioned. And, strangely enough, like when you actually do a tour of their facilities, usually physical security is very robust, very visible, very, layers, defense in depth. They understand, they can see, touch physical security. They understand gates, cameras, locks, and what that actually does for them and what the return on investment is. But cyber is kind of nebulous. Like, what are you actually investing in? What do you actually need to implement? What kind of training do our employees actually need? And, if we are hit with ransomware or intellectual property theft, like, what does recovery look like? And, I'm a big advocate of just starting with tabletops for these small businesses, like a low cost, no cost kind of solution, just kind of start asking those questions. But in starting there from building up their plans. But I just think that there's so much going on in their worlds that cybersecurity is always a concern, but it's never anything that's or rarely, action or invested in within their kind of priorities and fiscal responsibilities.
All right, folks, I appreciate this. I think for most of us, it's a question of education and understanding what's out there. I just took my kids to the Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse or across the Spider-Verse, at least. And as it expands, I won't tell the whole story, but there's almost thousands of Spider-Men everywhere into the Spider-Verse. And so I think it can be overwhelming for a single Spider-Man, so to speak. So at any rate, let's move on to the next question. According to the World Economic Forum, human error is the leading cause of cybersecurity breaches, accounting for 95% of incidents. Where should businesses start when it comes to employee training and awareness to reduce the risk of a breach? Who would like to start?
I'll take a quick stab. Training and awareness. So number one, highlighting what kind of threats there are and what those might look like. And then also doing some fake cases where you're trying to get a sense of your workforce, where do they stand with understanding these risks and how are they reacting to them? So, one of the big things is you do a fake phishing incident and you see how each individual person can react. And then some training around that. I don't know how your guys' inbox looks, but I'm deflecting 7 or 8 emails a day, right? Of people that are trying to look like our center director getting me to buy a gift card. So some very basic things like that in a fake sense, I think can go a long way.
Thank you, Nick. Anyone else?
Yeah, I appreciate what Nick said. I think a lot of just having that awareness and maybe even having some scenarios. I know here on the DoD level, we have to do annual training that make us aware of some of these incidents like phishing incidents. So having annual training would be a great starting point, but also just being aware of where they could turn to learn more about these things. I know the Apex accelerators, they do training a couple times a year that focuses on this very subject. In fact, I believe they're going to be doing one here in about a month or so. I would check out their website just to make sure. As well as, and I said it earlier, the manufacturing extension partnerships. I mean, they're there to help you as well. But the DoD, they've established a website. It's called projectspectrum.io. And in that website, it's a free website to go to. They have training tools and checklists on how to get you ready for that, to get that NIST 800 basic assessment, as well as getting ready for cybersecurity. Because the DoD, we don't want to lose our small business and medium-sized business vendor base. We want it to be strong. We want it to grow. So they've just established this training website that's free, and again, a lot of great videos and training products. But there are systems in place to help these small businesses get there. And hopefully, Nick, myself, Dennis, the PTACs, we could be a resource to help point them in the right direction to get that awareness and the training to help reduce that risk.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo everyone, say awareness and training, kind of start with that initial kind of baseline set of knowledge for everyone. Let them be aware of what the threats are. If your organization can afford some sort of phishing training built into everything, I think that's always very valuable. But even kind of moving one step further beyond like phishing training, which is obviously something that we all experience in our inboxes, I think cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility, including leadership. So like leadership needs to understand that policies, procedures, and resources that they actually allocate to different teams is also important. In my history of doing assessments with military and federal installations, usually one of the biggest findings we had was some sort of procedural policy gap, which was leading to all these different vulnerabilities and attack vectors into the environment. And there's technical stuff along the way, but usually the big kind of finding was like just policy procedures. And when I see human error in here, Obviously social engineering is an element of it, but I think more companies need to look at their cybersecurity posture more holistically, and what is everything that we actually have. And when there is an incident in the news that's kind of interesting or concerning, I think taking a little bit of a tactical pause with leadership teams and IT teams, actually have a discussion about that. Be like, hey, this happened. We have similar systems. Could this happen to us? Where, just give an example of whatever it was, remote access, someone left the company 3 years ago and their credentials were found on the deep web and someone stuffed them in there and they had access system. Could that happen? Do we have those policies right now? Like when someone leaves, what does it look like from an IT perspective? And I think really just having ongoing conversations with that are a great way just to kind of generate awareness for really just time in these organizations and try and actually build up that culture of cybersecurity and have everyone vested and interested in it. And then you can create more of a blanket as you actually build up the maturity of your cybersecurity posture within your organization.
Thank you very much, David. I think I was looking at the numbers on revenue for cybersecurity market and pulled up in 2023. This is current information is at $68 billion for the industry. And so a growth that's happening right now, and the focus piece on that is cybersecurity is security services at about $37 billion. And so I have a question to you all about talent. The increase in data breaches is spurring a demand for cybersecurity talent across all industries. A recent article in Forbes indicated that there are currently more than 700,000 unfilled cybersecurity positions across the U.S. What must be done to close the cybersecurity talent gap?
I'd like to take the first stab at this one, considering that my job is to actually bolt ambitious cybersecurity students into this industry. And I think, from my perspective, I have a bench of students who have prestigious credentials upon graduation, winning high scores in capture the flag competitions, doing amazing internships, posting their own content on LinkedIn, and can't get into that entry-level cybersecurity position. For whatever reason, it's very hard to place juniors into cybersecurity. But, my inbox gets lit up at least once a month, if not more frequently, for someone offering me a job, usually something I don't even qualify for. So I think there's a lot of aggression and mobility for seniors, but HR, and organizations need to start looking at how do they actually open up their organization to allow for juniors and entry-level positions to actually move up and progress to become seniors. Like, we just can't keep poaching from organizations looking for seniors, throwing bigger salaries and bigger benefits. Like, there has to be an avenue for these entry-level positions and more of them. And, apprenticeships are a great way to do that. But yeah, I every time I see this number of like 7,000, 1 million, whatever the big number is, like, I kind of like look at students in my program or students who have left my program. I was speaking with one last night on LinkedIn, working with her, on how she could actually kind of position herself for an entry-level position and get her going. And, her resume is amazing. So this baffles me every single time it kind of comes across my area, but that's my 2 cents on this question.
Thanks, Dennis. Nick?
Yeah, I think there's a speed to market thing here too. I'm really glad that the community colleges, they're really good at getting students to market fast and getting the credentials they need. But you look at like a Google Cloud certificate program, right? You can do that kind of thing at night. And the whole micro credentialing model, I think, is very applicable here too. How many micro credentials could you get for cybersecurity? And start adding that to your resume and reaching out to businesses. And those businesses need to be maybe a little more open-minded to letting somebody that's more junior in, because they've got those credentials already locked in. So Dennis, I was curious, in your interaction with Utah down there, is that kind of an interesting use case for just getting a whole tranche of students to to market, if you will, or sound like you had some unique things going on there.
Yeah, we do. So we actually have a participant pool for students that are interested for them to self-enroll into. So it's a quick little Department of Labor kind of information gathering space, and then they actually are entered into the pool, and we do outreach to them with these different opportunities as well. So yes, absolutely. So that's one avenue. And as these apprenticeships kind of come online, we're hoping to actually kind of grow that. But, one of the things I was actually going to follow up with you on, Nick, was getting in touch with you in Impact and figure out how we could possibly funnel some of our talent your way for employers are looking. So if there's any people listening out there that are looking for an outstanding junior, I have a list of them. Feel free to reach out to me as well. So I love placing them because they're all amazing.
And also, I'll just throw out there, if you're interested in, if there is talent that wants to work with the DoD, usajobs.com is where you want to go. I just did a quick search for cybersecurity jobs here, and it's just it's multiple pages of cybersecurity jobs if you want to work in the DoD space or with the federal government. Also, we also here at Keyport, we do a lot of outreach to find talent to work for us. And then on the contractor side, if there's cybersecurity contractors out there, here at Keyport, we have one large IT contract, and within that IT contract, there is a cybersecurity portion. So it might not be a contract that you would find for, but maybe get into a subcontracting situation. And you could always reach out to me, and I could provide some prime contractors for you that you might want to partner with for any follow-on action. But I would go to the Department of Navy Office of Small Business Programs website. They have all of the long-range acquisition forecasts for all 10 buying commands within the Navy. And within I do know there are some cybersecurity contracts out there. So if you're a cybersecurity contractor on listening in today, I encourage you to look at that, look at some of these opportunities that are out there, because I'm sure there's definitely some prime opportunities as well as subcontracting opportunities.
All right. This is tracking in the right direction, folks. And so I have a follow-up question. In 2020, cyber attacks against the United States surged, making up about 47% of all cyber attacks worldwide. Why do you think the U.S. is so heavily targeted, and what new protocols in the government, or should the government be putting together in place to protect sensitive information?
I can take a stab here. The United States, is an innovative country. We've got IP and technologies that other countries that might want those aren't able to develop on their own. We see jets that look like ours, very similar, flying in other airspaces that were copied from our intellectual property. So I think that's the main reason we're a huge target. I think another vulnerability we might have is that it's a strength and a weakness. It's a completely subcontracted, if you will, supply chain that we have. And so all those risks and vulnerabilities, it's just a network of highways into the information source, as David might be able to tell you more about.
I mean, everything that Nick says, I agree with. I mean, the U.S., we are always at the top end of furthering all this technology, especially our weapon systems. You'd mentioned aircraft, but there's also aircraft carriers that are out there that look very similar to what we're doing here in the United States. So, and as far as the subcontracting, we have these NIST requirements right now in place for the primes, but those same NIST requirements apply to subcontractors. So if you are a prime contractor here, your subcontractors need to have those same NIST requirements, because as Nick was talking about, it is a big network. Gary, you're talking about the Spider-Man network. I mean, there is a network out there that we need to make sure we're protecting that information, so that NAVC drawing that we're attaching for that torpedo maintenance or that in-service engineering project that we have going on. We need to make sure that is protected from the prime level all the way down to the third tier, subcontractor, which is difficult because typically a lot of those second and third tier subcontractors are those companies that might have 25 to 50 people who, are wearing multiple hats, as Nick said earlier, or maybe they just aren't aware of, these certain things. And sometimes the prime contractor might not be aware, like, oh, all of my subcontractors need to have this in place. So, the US, we are the leading edge with this technology, and we just need to protect.
Yeah, I think also, cyber criminals have bills, and they also don't like going to jail. And, they're looking at, what's a target rich environment, where I can freely operate and perform whatever my mission is. If they're state sponsored or cyber criminal group, where are we going to get our biggest payout? And right now, unfortunately, the United States is a big well of that right now. So that's kind of one challenge. The other thing, I think what tends to happen a little bit too frequently is, for whatever reason, there's a broad assumption that cyber criminals have some sort of moral red line. So in 2020, when the hospitals were completely initially overwhelmed due to COVID, there was this misunderstanding that ransomware gangs were just going to take a vacation. They're not going to go after hospitals. Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic, people are dying. Like, well, why would they do that? Well, hindsight, they saw it as an opportunity. So the cartels actually ramped up their different ransomware attacks against hospitals because they knew it was going to be a quick payout. They can get money faster, and they can actually use this to go on vacation once COVID is over. And that's something I actually work out with my students is actually, hey, like, there is no moral red line. Never underestimate the creativity of your adversary. And we need more individuals that actually can kind of think that way as part of different organizations as they build up their threat profiles. What can the government do to kind of help out? Regulation, from my perspective, may not be the best approach, but I would like to see more incentives, financial incentives for them to actually invest in cybersecurity, whether it's, subsidizing an internship or an apprenticeship, just something to actually make it a little bit easier for them to kind of move in that direction. Providing grants to academic institutions is also something I'm a little bit biased about. But I think they're doing a lot of great work right now. Honestly, like, a lot of the work kind of coming down through Department of Homeland Security into academia and apprenticeships is really kind of spot on. And I really like the approach that's going. I would just love to see more of it.
All right. Any other comments there? And folks who are on, please feel free to add a few questions in the chat. We'll jump to one of those really quickly just to be polite because it just popped up. Alyssa Jackson, which is our director at SNOSTEM, as it's listed here, Snohomish STEM, and also Career Connect Washington here in Snohomish County and at EASC, says, are there emerging trends or technologies in cybersecurity that organizations should be aware of and or consider implementing? Emerging trends. Go ahead, David.
I can't, I'm not so well versed to find out about emerging trends, but as far as implementing, I would just go to that Project Spectrum IO, look at the requirements that are there. They have a list of the requirements, and just go through that checklist and just start working on that checklist, implementing that so you can go forward with any government work.
All right. Any other comments? Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of flip this a little bit and say that most of the organizations we work with are so early in their journey that thinking about emerging trends, it probably isn't the best place to start. I know that's not really answering the question, but an emerging trend that we're seeing and how you frame the cybersecurity conversation is that In a small business, this is not IT's job. This is not the help desk's job. This is a business continuity plan. And the first thing that you need to do is get the C-suite involved and have an executive sponsor for cybersecurity. So that when that team is not getting what they need, they go to the C-suite, and this is a top priority, right? Because it's really just a risk mitigation strategy. We do that in our supply chains. We do that with programs, with manufacturing processes, and get the executive buy-in is something that I think when NIST first came out, everybody was like, oh, IT's got a new thing to go do. And the whole NIST MEP network has been trying to flip that conversation on its head to this is the C-suite's job.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Dennis, you want to jump in or?
Sure. Yeah, I think, well, for the emerging trend, I think the emerging trend over the last 3 years has been like how to grapple with remote work. So, what are the actual technical controls that need to be put in place? Like now your end users aren't on a device that you actually physically have access to, it's their home computer, which brings all sorts of different cybersecurity challenges to it as well. So I think remote work is definitely one that a lot of organizations are still kind of figuring out what that looks like from a cybersecurity perspective. And one that I've actually honestly been following a lot is, operational technology, cybersecurity, industrial cybersecurity career fields. And I'm seeing more employers actually start to seek that out. We have 2 municipalities along I-5 that were just recently hiring for that position. Both of them received failed searches initially, for a well-paying job around industrial cybersecurity. And I happen to have the luxury of being a panelist for one of them. And strangely enough, like out of 9 candidates that we screened, 3 of them even only knew what operational technology actually meant, even though it was in a job description with details within the job. So we need more people that can fill into these different roles within, operational technology as well. Where there's a big push from the federal government right now to actually start securing wastewater systems, water systems, electrical systems, advanced manufacturing, and get these individuals with these unique skill sets into these positions. And when it comes to like emerging, that's something that clearly I'm very heavily interested in. But, from a kind of the stability of our nation in regards to keeping our lights and water moving, I think this is something that, if you actually have these systems in your municipality, or if you are a small manufacturer, like these are things that you should really start looking at. Like what are our skills that we currently have? Do we even have an IT person? Do we have IT security who we contract with? And can we skill up, or do we kind of bring someone in? And I think, for anything emerging, this is where I think we really need to look at, because the threats are actually ramping up in this space. They're often overlooked. They get a little bit of hype, for a week. But after that, things kind of dwindle off. But, right now, the only thing that's really been stopping something catastrophic from happening in these different industrial systems is our adversaries' understanding of how the processes themselves work. So, but that gap is getting narrower and narrower and narrower with every incident. And we don't want to be in a situation where, the adversaries have this figured out and they're actually starting to really impact our organizations, and recovery is not something that these different businesses are in a position for. So, that's something that I have been seeing and following, and I'm hoping that, different employers really start to invest in this space.
Thank you, Dennis. I'll jump to one more question on our sheet here and then jump back to the chat questions. As Nick alluded to, NIST SP 800-171 is a set of guidelines created by the National Institute of Standards and Technology to help protect sensitive information stored in non-federal computer systems. It aims to ensure that organizations handling this information, such as contractors and suppliers working with the government, have proper security measures in place. Last month, NIST released an initial public draft of revision 3 to NIST SP 800-171. Panelists, what will these revisions mean for federal contractors and others who are bound by the NIST SP 800-171? Let's say that 3 times fast.
I can take a quick stab. I mean, there were a lot of new requirements, right? But one of the most interesting ones, 5 of the proposed 26 control additions were around supply chain management, which is a bit of a new paradigm for small businesses. So if you are doing subcontracting yourself and you're flowing CUI, the controls just got much more secure. So a monitoring function for external service providers. How are they doing with their cybersecurity? What are the acquisition strategies? How do you know who to go pick as a supplier? And you can imagine we're getting down to like tier 5 with some of these contract manufacturers, down to where's the raw material coming from. And then another interesting one was an independent assessment is a new requirement, right? So not just a government audit, but just like a good ISO 9001 system, you have internal auditors that are responsible for poking holes in the system, taking its temperature, taking its pulse, making sure it's working well. So that was another interesting proposed addition to the Rev 3 we saw.
Anyone else want to take a stab at this? Doesn't seem like there's any excitement to jump in. I think, Nick, you've handled it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I
Nick.
was just gonna piggyback on what Nick said, and the big thing is like when just the monitoring and going down to your looking at your suppliers. There's also a big focus on it, here in the DoD world. Where are you getting your supplies? Are you getting products from China? I mean, that's in some of these Asian countries, and that's a big red flag as well now in the DoD space. So just making sure, the monitoring aspect. So I just wanted to touch on that as well.
Yeah, I think their panelists answered this well, and it's a little bit outside my scope and how it kind of touches the contractors. But what I can say from the Everett side is that right now, actually later today, my students actually walk through this exercise. So we have a capstone project where they have a fake company that I kind of created, and they actually have to figure out where the most valuable data is, like where is it stored, where is it in transit, where is it in use, and how they actually kind of protect it. And then even look at the supply chain for this company that produces a plastic mold injection, so like they actually look at the supply chain as a whole, and they kind of evaluate the cybersecurity posture, really kind of dipping into this framework a bit, but NIST documentation for a 100 level class may be a little bit not applicable, but we kind of hit the concepts with it. And NIST has some great documentation that's very valuable, and then we actually introduce our students to it where it actually works best.
All right, I think we have a few questions in the chat, or at least I thought I saw one. We have Schubert Ho from Feed Me Hospitality, which is one of our board of trustees as well. If you've ever been to Edmonds and the surrounding area, you can feed yourself or feast on some of the Feed Me Hospitality food. At any rate, when it comes to the whole device encryption like BitLocker, what is the importance of implementing this across all devices used in hospitality setting? I lost them there. Hospitality setting where you have many individuals who don't use computers as a main mode of work. This is excluding POS systems that are already managed. Any thoughts to help Schubert with this question?
Yeah, unless you got anything, we're getting deep in the tech stuff here, and I'm feeling a little out of the.
Yeah, I think anytime you can actually, small business working with what are the native security controls within their device that they don't have to buy up into something like BitLocker, whole drive encryption, there's definitely value added. And, when you're looking at the cybersecurity of your organization as a whole, something like that, or just having the mindset and awareness, the forward thinking of how you can actually implement that by itself, that skill, that mindset is extremely valuable, because as you're looking at other technologies, what's a good fit? So I think for a small company, if you're thinking about BitLocker, think about multi-factor authentication, like a password manager. And then also I think for small businesses, something to never rule out is insider threat. If you actually have someone with physical access to your stuff or with a malicious USB drive, like what could they possibly do? What can they touch? So I think really just small businesses, cyber hygiene, the cyber fundamentals aspect of it. Like if you actually have the owner of the company thinking about that, I think your organization's already in an amazing spot, and kind of roll with your gut at that point. Really look at, what tools you can turn on. Can you actually practice something tabletop, a scenario where, someone actually takes data that's valuable from your company? What would you do? How would you recover? And kind of walk through those processes. So I think a combination of implementing that technology when and where you can, where it's not going to be so restrictive that it's actually impacting your core business functions, and just being aware of like where your data lives, and how you actually protect it. So I think you're off to a great start with just looking at native Windows controls like BitLocker.
Okay, I think Schubert might be pleased with that answer. So Schubert, if you want to put a link in here for where these gentlemen can find your food spots, I think they would love to have more conversations with you. There we go. Folks, we are running down on time here, but I want to make sure that we get to, let's see if we can get through this last question that I have. And then I'd like to give each of you a little bit of time to kind of give closing remarks. Similar to what we talked about with NIST, by October 1st, 2025, all Department of Defense contractors will be required to meet cybersecurity maturity model certification, which is the CMMC 2.0, a new standard being implemented by DoD due to increased security breaches. So the CMMC requires all suppliers at all tiers of the supply chain to comply. What steps should contractors begin taking to know that they ensure that they have that compliance by 2025 deadline? What should new contractors be doing to ensure this?
I think new contractors, first of all, talk with your PTACs, because they're going to let you know a lot, like how to be government ready. And then also, come to events such as this. Come to some of the DoD outreach events like Navy Gold Coast, which is coming up, because there's all these different classes. And this is a talking point in almost every, general session that goes on at these large events. Talk to small business professionals. I do a monthly event. I call it Wednesdays with the Deputy, and I talk about things such as top tips when doing business with the Navy. And this NIST 800 and CMMC is the one of the top talking points during that. But I do believe, like, a company that's getting ready to do business with the DoD, your first conversation should be with PTAC, because they're going to help you get all your, get registered to do business. But in that conversation, they're going to help you understand some of these requirements to do business with the government. I'll tell you, at Keyport and probably all the warfare centers, the majority of our contracts are going to have that CUI piece. So you're going to have some type of protections if you want to do that contract. So if you're going to talk to me, I'm going to say, hey, you need to talk to Impact Washington. You're going to need to talk to PTAC. They're going to help you out. Here's a website that the DoD's put together, the projectspectrum.io. I'm going to point them to recorded training sessions that the Navy has put on, so they can learn more. Because this is not going to go away. And, previously, the NIST 800 and the CMMC was mostly going to deal with those companies that have to have controlled documents. It didn't really matter with commercial products. Well, CMMC 2.0, those companies that deal with commercial products, they're going to have some type of implementation. It might not be 110 steps. It might just be 15 steps, but everybody's going to have to be involved with CMMC in some way or another. So get educated, start with PTAC, and talk with, the small business person where you're looking at doing business, and we're going to point you to PTAC. So
thank you, David. I'm just showing that we have our PTAC counselor right here, Kara Buckingham. So now you know the face and the place to go. Gentlemen, I think David did a great job answering that question. So what I would like to do now is give each of you a chance to just give maybe a 1 minute or so closing remark. And so Dennis, we'll start with you, Nick, then you, and then David, you, and then actually, Kara, we're gonna give you a chance just to give a plug for PTAC at the end of this. So go ahead, Dennis.
Thank you again for having me and everyone that tuned in this morning for our coffee chat. It was a pleasure to be here. I think like my big takeaway from this too, especially as we're looking at, maturity models, I think a maturity model is an outstanding opportunity for organizations to actually move into. It's a good pathway, like here's where we are now and this is kind of where we want to be. But my advice on that aspect would be don't stop with compliance. Actually try and create a culture of cybersecurity. If you're going to go into a maturity model, start investing in your people. Look at training, allow them to actually attend conferences, training, really kind of build up that culture and make cybersecurity everyone's responsibility. And if you're looking for resources on how to do that, feel free to drop by Everett Community College. We can help train for a range of those different opportunities. But this is a great topic. Attacks are on the rise. Adversaries are looking for more and more different opportunities from a range of different types of attacks. And I really think we are well past due from every organization really taking a good look at like, what are our cyber assets? Where do they live in the digital spectrum, and what security controls do we have now, whether it's BitLocker that we can actually implement, and then what models, what resources do we have to kind of start creating a culture of cybersecurity within our organization? Thank you.
Yeah, a takeaway is that it's as confusing as ever on where we're going with cyber, right? So now we're on Rev 3, CMMC 2.0, Rev 3, but hey, it comes back to the NIST 800-171 controls. That's the backbone that you have to meet, and that's what it's been since 2017. A lot of small, medium-sized businesses look at us and say, okay, what do I need to do? And then when the dollar sign is there, it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to think about this 6 to 9 months later. So we just want to say, we hear you. We've tried to do some innovative things with funding. One interesting idea that we keep kicking around is a business-specific cybersecurity NIST 800-171 cohort that could be through the state's job skills program. We've looked at that. We got as far as going through every single control and which ones could be good on a cohort basis, which could be good for one-on-one consulting, to really try to lower that level of financial investment, but still get the good outcomes. So we're ever ready to help you, but also trying to do some innovative things to get people to take action, because there still is a lot of people that are almost kind of using the government's, well, now we're on Rev 3, we're on this, to say, I'm not going to wait until you guys figure out what you want to do and how you want to manage me. And we're encouraging you to be proactive. So
thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. David?
Awesome. Great. I appreciate what Nick and Dennis said. Dennis said, invest in people. CMMC does impact everybody. At Newark Keyport, again, if you want to do business with the DoD, it's not just a Newark Keyport thing, it's a DoD thing. Make sure you are implementing steps in order to do business with us. We want to, maintain and grow our industrial base. And in doing that, you need to be procurement ready. And I would probably say the majority of any contract action that you're going to get with any of the warfare centers or in the DoD, there are going to be clauses in place that are going to require you to have these CMMC requirements or NIST 800 requirements right now. CMC will be coming in 2025, if not sooner. But one thing I do want you to take away is a couple things that you need to do. One is get a JCP certification. JCP, basically what that is it is required if you're going to receive any control documentation. In order to get that JCP certification, you need to have that NIST 800 basic assessment loaded in SPRS, the Supplier Performance Risk System. And if you need help with that, there are tools in place, like I've said a couple times. Talk with Impact Washington, talk with PTAC. That is resources that are available for you to help you get procurement ready. And the DoD also has, my mind just went blank, projectspectrum.io. So and then there's Dennis at Everett Community College. They have systems set up or classes set up as well in order to help out. So we're here to help because again, the U.S. is the leading edge for technology. We want to stay that way, and these CMMC, these NIST requirements are established so we stay the leading country in technology. So
thank you, David. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Nick. Kara?
I'll be really quick. I just, first of all, want to thank all of our panelists for joining us today. It was kind of a last minute ask in the last few weeks, and just love the fact that you jumped in on board, and the information you shared has been fabulous. From my perspective, being with PTAC, Apex Accelerators, Dave, you sold me so well. Thank you. And we offer one-to-one counseling. We offer workshops, and with the benefit of being able to do things by webinar, you can jump on one that's offered by another PTAC counselor in Washington State. I'm going to be getting some on my schedule, either for webinars or in person in the region. So about this topic and many others. If you're interested in assistance with any other kind of guidance on government contracting, you can come to me as well. So keep me in mind, I included my contact information in the chat, as well as the link to Project Spectrum and the link to the upcoming DoD cybersecurity requirements training that's going to happen on June 28th. So check it all out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kara. Thank you to our panelists. I want to give you all just a quick update on what's coming up for EASC as well. We actually have coming up our public officials reception and legislative wrap-up, which is happening on June 8th this week from 4 to 7 p.m. at Hotel Indigo in Everett. And this is actually presented by the Boeing Company for Economic Alliance in Snohomish County. So if you have not registered, you can scan the QR and get registered. There's going to be quite a few dignitaries there that you can engage with. And following that, we are going to be utilizing this opportunity to look at obviously tackling the U.S. Farm Bill from field to table, and it is on my birthday, June 20th, from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 here, and it's free virtually here for coffee chats with Economic Alliance Snohomish County. To conclude, folks, you know the drill. We go to our gallery screen. Everyone who is still on with us, please go to your video camera, grab your coffee or water or beverage of your choice. Let's thank our panelists, Dennis, Nick, and David, Kara, and let's thank Rachel for her efforts as well to develop this. Folks, have an amazing Tuesday. Economic Alliance Snohomish County. Drink that coffee, water, and have a good day. Take care.
Thank you.